Hey, Jeff Howard here, back with the Hulk, and we're going to talk about the number 2 video here is talking about the anatomy of the foilboard and what you should look at. Now, what I want to talk about is the small parts, so when we start to discuss on what makes a difference in there. So here you have the mast. The mast is connected to the base of the board. There are 2 different main standard attachments for the mast into the board. One is the Tuttle Box, and the Tuttle Box is like an older type windsurf fin, and that goes up through the board. Now the main thing about that is if it's a Tuttle Box, and it's usually the European side of things, you will see a lot of the standard mast coming with a different one, but I'm going to talk about that. So once you get the Tuttle Box, it goes in through the board, up in, and has a screw on the top. Now you can adjust that base a little bit, moving it forward and backwards, and that goes up in there. The limiting factor is your board has to be a very thick board to allow that mast base up inside of there. Is it a problem? Absolutely not. Does it allow you to adjust and switch to go over to different boards? Not as much. The second one is the base. It has a flat base on the bottom of it, and it uses 4 screws and screws up through the board. That is becoming kind of a little more of a standard situation, and the reason is it can be mounted on a very thin and small board, which is very lightweight, or you can use the track system like such on a slingshot. It has 2 tracks and 4 bolts that come up through, and you can adjust that as well. If you look at a Cabrina board, it's got the same base, but the screws go all the way through the board and bolt onto it. So if you ever want to progress to a very thin board, you want to get the flat mount base on there, or you're kind of restricted to a certain model board. So you will see a lot of those starting to come out, and probably some modifications where you can actually stick the base into the plate. I bet this is going to be coming along soon. That flat mount base allows you way more adjustment and fitting onto different boards, and you will see those as an aftermarket. So you have the mast, then you have your fuselage. The fuselage connects everything up through the mast. So you have your fuselage here, then you have your front wing, and then you have your rear wing. Now, wings definitely do make a huge difference. A lot of people ask me, why are they shaped differently? This is would be showed here, I'd call this a very high aspect foil. It's very narrow and very thin. The reason is, the higher aspect that you go, the thinner it is, the faster you have to foil before that foil will stall in the water. So it's a little bit more difficult. Racers usually use them. An experienced rider may want to use those, but the most common you will see is a little bit fatter in the base. When it's fatter at the bottom, it will foil at lower speeds, and lower speeds are very important to learning. So a lot of people ask, can I learn on a high aspect? You can. It's a lot more difficult. It's very, very sensitive. It's very fast, very quick, and that's why you'll see a lot of those racers out there, and they definitely make it look a lot easier. When you begin to foil, you want a lower aspect foil. It's very important to make it a lot easier on the learning procedure. Now, the tailback here, this is your trailing edge, little tail wing. The tail wing is basically a stabilizer. It guides this and just keeps it kind of chilled out, and it can constantly keep this in an adjustment, and you'll see it'll keep it flying. If you didn't have that on there, the stabilization of this thing would be way off. The balance would not work out. So you will see a lot of them that have a longer fuselage. The longer that this fuselage is, the more stable it is, the harder it is to adjust that angle of attack. So other than that, you've got your foil, your mast, and again, these are usually sold separately, so you can use a different board, the board you want to put on there. Now, I want to talk about it when we start the next video, which will tell us about how to start getting up and riding on it. It's very important of feet placement and the adjustment of the straps on the board. So that's an anatomy of the foil board. So if you have any questions, you want to talk about those parts and things, that will get you started in that area. Anyway, that's Jeff Howard here at Kiteboarding.com, and I'm going to show you how to get up and start riding on these things.